Support for this program is provided in part by Guido's Fresh Marketplace. Welcome to The Natural Cook. I'm Anna Gershenson. We are in the fall season with all the wonderful vegetables being harvested by our farmers and brought to our farmers market. And we brought this bounty today so that you can see what you can cook with. I also have a wonderful new guest today, Christina Lothrop. She is a native Pittsfielder and she loves cooking.
Yes, I really do.
She grew up in a family that cooks, and that's why I encourage you to cook at home so that your kids can see you cooking, taste what you're cooking, and get bitten by that bug, right, Christina?
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay, so Christina is going to tell us why she loves cooking, what she's going to prepare today, so please stay tuned.
I really enjoy cooking because for me, growing up in the particular household that I did, cooking was one of the greatest acts of love you could do for another person. And that's a motto that I continue to carry in my own life. I love cooking for my partner and for all of my friends. I cooked a lot in college, and everyone who would pass by my little kitchen would be like, "Oh my God, what does that smell?" And I'd be like, "Oh, come in and have some." I once fed the entire floor fried chicken, but today.
That's wonderful. So very inspiring. Please tell us what you're going to make today so that we can jump straight into cooking.
Yes, of course. Today I am preparing a tofu curry, which is something I came up with just in the middle of the night when I was very hungry and needed something pretty quick to eat. So right now what I've done is I took a block of firm tofu and I'm pressing it, if you can see here. I cut it in half this way so it doesn't, like, the pressing station doesn't sort of collapse on itself. I've surrounded it with paper towels here to collect all the water, but you can use a dish towel as well. That will work just as fine. I have like a Pyrex sort of dish on top here, and there's a mug that I filled with water to help with extra weight. At home, I like to use my cast iron skillet on top of it. In addition, you can also take a pan, like we're going to cook our rice in today,
yes,
and put a couple inches of water in it as well, and that will work just fine for another weight.
Sounds great. So why don't we start with rice to let it cook while we are doing the tofu prep. And tofu is actually a very versatile food. This is a perfect source of plant protein, and it has many nutrients. It has iron, which is non-hemi iron, as opposed to iron that you found in animal food. And so you have to make sure that when you eat the tofu, that you also consume some kind of vegetable with vitamin C, because that will allow it to be absorbed into your body. So that's why today we are going to be making a wonderful salad that has tons of vitamin C. And I see that Christina is here. She put the water, so you took two cups of jasmine rice, right, Christina?
Yep.
Yes. And added 3 cups of water.
Yes, and I'm adding a little bit of salt to help
Yes.
with the flavor. And one point I want to tell everyone is when you cook rice, if you want nice sort of fluffy individualized grains, it's very important for you to wash your rice. This helps sort of to rid it of the starch on the outside, which is what causes it to clump. So if you've ever had like kind of clumpy, mushy rice that you've made at home and you haven't been able to figure out why, I would suggest washing your rice first, just until the water runs clear underneath it.
Yes, and it's especially important for basmati rice, as you know if you've been watching my show. But now, today, we are cooking jasmine rice, which is a stickier kind of rice.
Yes.
Okay, so on to the tofu.
Yes, onto the tofu. This has been pressing for a little while now, a good 20 minutes or so. At home when I make this, I prep this first before I start anything else and just sort of let it sit while everything else is getting ready.
So what's the maximum amount of time that you would want it to sit if you had the time?
You know, you don't want it to sit for too long.
Yes.
That is definitely a danger.
Because you don't want to over dry it.
Yeah, you don't want to over dry it. You don't sort of want to squish it into a little oblivion.
Yes.
And I would say probably the maximum is about 45 minutes.
Yes.
You don't want this too much. I often use extra firm at home.
Right.
So I don't need to press out quite so much water, but this is firm tofu we have today.
Okay, so while you are going to be cutting your tofu, tofu comes in different varieties, from soft tofu to extra or even extra firm tofu. And it all depends, this gradation depends on the amount of water that is in the tofu. And so also the use will be determined by you know, how much water is there. For example, silken is good for sauces, for soups, but this definitely, if you want to have, you know, like a crust on it and want to hold out the shape, then you really want to have less moisture.
Yeah.
And we even extracted moisture from it to dry it up. Okay, so let me check what's happening to your rice and tell us what you are doing with tofu.
So I just cut this tofu block again. I cut it in half like this. And now I'm just sort of slicing it along this way. So we sort of get little 1.5 inch pieces here. We're going to put those in the pan later.
And it's about 1/2 inch thick, right?
It's about 1/2 inch thick. Yeah, honestly, the shape and size doesn't totally matter the most.
Okay.
But I always tend to cut it in shapes like this because it makes it easier to eat.
Okay. So now that your rice is cooking, do you cook it with the lid on?
I tend to, yes.
Okay. And do you reduce the heat?
Once
How
it's
fast? Because it's boiling now?
Yeah, once it's at a boil, we can
Yes.
reduce it a little bit.
Okay. All right. So do you want it to be simmering?
Simmering is perfect,
Okay.
and if you could
Okay.
give it a quick stir as well,
Okay. That sounds good.
just so we make sure nothing's sticking there.
It definitely, the rice definitely was sticking to the bottom of the pan. So if you don't want to have it sticking and burning there, then you definitely give it a stir, just like Christina said. I'm increasing the heat because now it's stopped. This is induction top, which I don't cook on at home. Gas is my favorite medium.
Oh yeah, same.
Yes. Okay, now, but you see how quickly it came back? So we are putting the lid on and cooking for about 15 minutes, right?
Yes, 15 minutes.
Until the end. Okay, all right. So what do we do next? And do you want me to start this? Or
That would be wonderful.
yes,
Thank
okay.
you.
All right.
Yep. Now I am just chopping up this onion. Normally I try to use like the smallest onion in the bag of 3-pound onions. You get a big Y. But this is what we got today, and that'll work just fine.
Yes.
So I'm just going to try and do a dice. Here you go. Just cutting it so that the pieces don't completely disappear, but that they have a good sort of size and texture to them.
Yes. And we are going to use vegetable oil. And vegetable oil is oil that you would qualify as, you know, something that comes from a vegetable. And this time I brought avocado oil because it has a high smoking point, even though we are not going to be really cooking on high heat.
No.
But it's a really good oil, even though avocado is technically a fruit. But it's a wonderful neutral oil to use when you don't want to use olive oil.
Yeah, I would definitely not recommend using olive oil
Right.
in this particular recipe.
Yes.
The flavor would just be really overpowering of everything else that we're going to be putting in here.
Absolutely. And you don't really, with tofu,
Mhm.
you don't use olive oil.
No,
It's just, kind of.
it doesn't work as well.
Right. And besides, like culturally, it's
Yes.
they don't match, right? They come from very different regions. And this definitely is Chinese, Japanese, or Asian influence. Okay, so I'm adding, how much should I add?
A couple, like a glug or two.
Okay.
That's good. We're just gonna cook up our onions first in the pan.
Yes. Okay. So you want it to be really coated nicely?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, sounds good.
Because this also has to be enough oil later for the tofu. So we have to
Yes.
think. Tofu has some wonderful sticking properties,
Yes, right.
and
Well-
we want to counteract that as much as possible.
Okay, well, you can also use non-stick pan as long
Mhm.
as it's ceramic and doesn't have this Teflon topping.
Oh, yes.
Okay, all right, so let's go.
Mhm.
Let's go with your. Do you need me to help you chop this?
Are
Are you going to now? Okay.
I will. I'll peel it though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we start with onion or wait?
Yes, we're gonna start with onion. And
Okay.
I'm just gonna wait a moment to
Right.
make sure that heats up.
Yes, we can increase the heat. It will bring it up faster.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Just a smidge.
All right.
All right.
Okay, so garlic also goes into it, and as well as ginger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have
Yes.
two. I tend to put in about 2 cloves of garlic, and I just smashed it with the knife, so that gets the peel off
Yes.
pretty quick and easy.
Right. Yes, you can put it.
And
yeah,
oh, thank you.
sure.
And like the
Okay.
ginger, we're going to.
I think it's ready. It's
Yeah,
letting
that-
you know.
yep.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah, just get everything.
If you need to
In there.
decrease, I see that it's beginning to smoke. So
Yeah, I see that as
maybe
well.
right to make it a little. Okay, and the ginger is very easy to peel. If ginger is organic, you don't need to peel it. But if it's not, it's very easy to peel it with a spoon.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what you should do. It's kind of counterintuitive that you would peel ginger with a spoon, but it works absolutely perfectly.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. A lot of people use a vegetable peeler
Yes.
as well. I don't know. I always find that takes off too much of like the
Yes.
underneath flesh for my liking.
Right.
And it's really easy to freeze ginger too,
Yes.
which is how I will often do it. We keep it in the freezer at home, and then when I need to use it for a recipe, I just pull it out, grab whatever chunk is left, and just use it in the recipe as
Yes,
needed.
That's a good idea because our viewers want to know how long things last. You know, when you bring them from the supermarket, how long they can actually last. And ginger, because it can be frozen, can last really a long time. And you just get it out and use it and put it back in.
Yep.
Because you can, it's very convenient even to grate ginger, like grating garlic as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this nice piece of ginger left.
Yeah, those absolutely work perfectly.
Yes. Okay. So,
All right, I'm just going to cook these until they get translucent, and we're almost there
yes.
on some of the smaller ones. And
Okay. All right. And then when you add your garlic and ginger, it doesn't really take that much.
no, I
right?
just
Because they cook very quickly. You want to really avoid cooking garlic too long because when garlic starts browning, like burning, it becomes bitter and it will affect the food that you're preparing. So you want to definitely avoid that.
it absolutely can.
Yes.
And if you
Okay.
can get
Why don't I stir it for you and you just go
Thank
ahead
you.
with chopping?
okay.
Yes.
Um,
Okay. It smells so good here, guys.
it really does, yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna
Okay.
stir the rice real quick.
Right. Okay. It's almost ready.
It is almost ready.
Right. Still a little moisture there.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I can feel the center's not fully
Okay.
done yet.
Okay. All right. We have to hurry up because we want to make sure that we do not miss showing everything we want
Nope.
to our viewers.
So I'm just
Yes.
grating this ginger in right on top of the onions.
Yes.
Don't really need to do anything else. And just go until you think you kind of have enough. Rule of thumb is, it's about a thumb-sized piece of ginger
Yes.
for most recipes. And that's what I go with as well.
Yes, that's the thing that we're talking with Christina before we started this, that everybody wants to have a recipe, everybody wants to know exactly how much stuff to put, but it's really, when you cook more and you allow yourself to be creative, when you feel confident, then you kind of get a feel of how much. So just put a little less at the beginning and taste it. And then if you feel that it needs more, you can add more, right?
Oh yeah, as my mother always says, often in reference to me putting
Yes.
salt in recipes,
Yes.
it's always easy to add more, but it's hard to take away.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what I say. Perfect. So your mother and I must think alike.
You do on many things,
Okay. All
especially
right.
when it comes to this. And all right, so there's a good amount of ginger in there. And now I'm going to grate in the garlic clove as well, because we already have the microplane out, and you know, why dirtying more stuff?
So at what point do we turn off the heat on the rice? We don't want it to be overcooking. Do we need to taste if it's cooked
Yes.
through? Yes. Okay. Okay.
Dropped in my garlic clove.
It has a little kind of bite to it. I don't know. You like it this way?
I do, yeah.
Should I turn it off and let it continue sitting?
That would be perfect.
Okay. All right. So it's great that the rice is actually sitting and waiting, and that's what you should do as well. You should always plan what you cook first, and maybe we should reduce a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you cook first and what you cook next, so that you want things to come to the table at the very at the same
be
time, right?
Ready.
Yes, and I'm lifting it off the heat because otherwise it's beginning to burn.
Yeah,
and we
I
want
don't
to
want
avoid
to-
that. Yes,
Don't want that to happen.
right.
Thank you for stirring it.
Okay.
They're just extra toasty and
Yes.
caramelized.
Okay.
As-
Well, are you going to be removing it and then putting tofu in there, or you put tofu together with it?
I put the tofu in right now.
Right now,
Oh,
okay.
oh no, not yet actually. I need to add my curry powder first.
Okay. All right. Why don't we add curry powder?
Yep.
And curry actually is not a spice. It is a melange of spices. It has turmeric, and it has cumin and coriander and nutmeg and cinnamon. It depends on the person who creates this spice
Yeah, I'm adding a few.
melange.
I'm adding a few tablespoons.
Right.
of
So
curry powder.
we really want it to be flavored. So
You
as you see
really do.
that this was very fresh spice. It smells so wonderful. More salt,
Just a little bit of salt.
right?
Yeah.
Because tofu is extremely bland, and that's the convenience of tofu because it will take on whatever flavor you want to give it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I add the spices to the
Yes.
dish now because when they make contact with the hot oil, it's what's called as blooming, and it really brings out a lot of the flavors that are hidden in the spice mixture.
Okay.
And now I'm going to add the tofu.
Wonderful.
And after we add the tofu, I'm just going to stir everything together, make sure that they're totally covered by the cocoa powder, by the
Yes.
curry powder.
Curry powder. Yes. Do you need to add any kind of? I know that you don't want to have liquid there, so you want it to actually brown or just saute and warm through. or-
It's more of a sautéing and warming through. I just
Right.
want to make sure it's all that each individual piece inside is coated in the powder
right.
before I add my coconut milk.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so we are stirring vigorously to make sure that every piece of tofu is coated with this deliciousness, which is combination of our sautéed onions and garlic and ginger and It's very invigorating to eat it, very comforting, and at the same time, can you imagine how invigorating it is for your body? Because your body gets all these nutrients that go in with this delicious food, which we don't think about, right?
Yes,
Right.
all of these things are ultimately very good for you,
Yes.
and they can really have a wonderful wellness effect.
And
in your
that's why
body.
it's so important to eat real food, not processed food. Anything that you see here is food that that actually came from the earth, and coconut milk, of course, is in a can, and of course, oils are bottled. But other than that, everything here is real. It's not, something that you put into your body like cereal or some kind of cracker,
Well, it's definitely real in that it's not imaginary. But this tofu is processed. We didn't just
Of
plop
course.
soybeans in there.
Right. So soybeans, tofu is actually, it's like a curd of the soybeans, right? So you get soybean milk, and then you have the coagulant that you add to it, and then it becomes tofu. Right, right, of course.
This is what's going to happen.
Right, okay. So
The steam pops up.
coconut milk goes
Coconut
in,
milk. Yeah.
and we use full fat coconut milk, and you saw that it actually separates. If you open the can, then you might see the liquid there, and then the layer of kind of thickened milk. Don't use both of them, right?
Yes, don't skim it.
Right.
Dump the whole thing in
Right,
there. That's
right.
fine.
Yes, and I like using organic coconut milk, and it's very delicious and also very, very nutritious and also very comforting.
Oh, it definitely can be, yes. And this is also normally the period in which I would add a couple squirts of sriracha. However, we forgot it.
Yes,
so
we forgot it, so please forgive us. And I know that people who are going to eat this food are going to really miss it.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Yes.
just remember to add a couple squirts of sriracha at home.
Yes.
There's also a similar type of chili paste. It's called simbol undak.
Yes.
That is made by the same company as the bottle with the green top sriracha.
Okay.
They make that, and that will also be quite good in here as well.
So I know that Christina likes topping it with some scallions.
I
and
do.
So I'm chopping them for her so that she can throw them on top. And in the meantime, while she's stirring it, I'm going to tell you what kind of salad I'm going to make to go with this, because this dish, except for the ginger and the onion and the garlic, it doesn't really have any veggies. So it's great to have a vegetable in your meal. Especially, I told you about the tofu, that it's wonderful to have a green vegetable with the tofu. So I got inspired by a book of my friend Adina Sussman. It's called Sababa, which in Arabic means cool, awesome. So I just did a demo at the farmer's market in Pittsfield, and everybody loved this dish. And so what it is, it's called rough chopped vegetable salad. And these are the vegetables that go into it. So it's kohlrabi, or you can put radish if kohlrabi is not available, or Japanese turnip that I use at the farmer's market. Definitely use tomatoes, like heirloom tomatoes are amazing now and so delicious. And cucumber, you don't have to peel it because there is a lot of fiber in cucumber. So if it's organic, don't peel it, just wash it, make sure that it doesn't have any dirt, especially if you buy it at the farmer's market, maybe it's not really washed well. This is the brush that I love, vegetable brush that I use if I want to preserve the skin. I do the same with carrots. These carrots are also homegrown, and you don't really need to peel carrots when you're buying this kind of carrot. And then these are all the vegetables that go. And then dill and scallions are going to go on top. And then I'll show you how I'm going to put it together. But what flavors it is this amazing condiment that actually is Egyptian in origin. It's called dukkha, and I showed it to you on one of these. And smell, Christina.
Oh my, that smells very nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what it is, I'm not showing because we don't have much time. I'm sure I'll be able to show it to you some other time. But it's roasted almonds, toasted cumin seeds and coriander seeds, and toasted sesame seeds. So what you do is, in a mortar and pestle, you will actually grind them. I'm talking about seeds, not sesame seeds, but cumin and coriander. And then you put in the food processor your almonds that were roasted together with that powder, with some freshly ground black pepper, a little bit, just a touch of salt. You make it into this kind of texture, and then you add sesame seeds, and it's just wonderful. So what I will do, I chopped roughly, as you can see, all of these, and I will put yogurt on the bottom of this dish. And we have here probably a good cup of yogurt, and then I will just spread it on the bottom, just like that. And I will put my veggies over. And you just put them, you can mix them up. And see how pretty they look?
That looks really gorgeous,
Yes.
especially against the yogurt. Now, can you tell me why you like to put it on the bottom?
The yogurt will actually, it will become kind of it will be kind of a dressing.
Uh-huh.
So this way you see vegetables very well. They are not really covered with anything.
Yep.
And then as you are serving it, you can mix it together. And I will slice the onions. And garlic, dill, and I will throw them on top. But here, what I'm going to do is just some freshly ground black pepper, which actually makes all these nutrients more bioavailable. And I will sprinkle just a little bit of salt, and I will take some lemon juice and drizzle it over like this. And some good olive oil. You really want to use good quality olive oil.
Oh yeah, that definitely matters a whole lot. It can really add so much to a dish.
Yes. And dukkha. Be generous with dukkha. See how pretty? Like if you put yogurt on top, then yogurt will get stuck to the dukkha. But here it coats the vegetables.
Oh, that looks so pretty.
Yes, and now, thank you, Christina. Okay. So keep telling us, and do you want to plate it already?
I am, yeah.
Yes.
I'm all set to plate.
Wonderful.
The tofu has absorbed some of the sauce, and the sauce has boiled off a little bit, so it's gotten a little thicker. Here we have our rice. And I'm just, at home I like to plate this up individually, or you can serve it all together, just the tofu curry on a nice big bed of rice and let everyone help themselves.
This smells so good.
It's almost time to eat here, and
Yes.
I think the crew is really looking forward to afterwards.
Yes. I know that our crew is going to be happy. Okay, so we are going to put some of this. Okay. All right, so let's put them next to each other.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And scallions.
scallions, thank you.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay.
Big, healthy helping.
So I know that it's delicious. We don't have time to taste it on camera, but we'll enjoy it afterwards. And thank you for joining us. And please come back and watch The Natural Cook. I was very happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me on.
And you're very comfortable in the kitchen because you've done it for so many years. Please be inspired by Christina and cook at home. Support for this program is provided in part by Guido's Fresh Marketplace.